Olympic Traffic News starts July 27th.
Day 4 of the Democratic National Convention, the day a woman is nominated vice president by a major party for the first time in history. From San Francisco, good evening. This is the Western edition of the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. This convention hall hums with talk of the first woman ever, the first American of full Italian extraction ever, nominated to be part of a major party ticket, and unfortunately, it also hums with talk of tragedy in Southern California. In 90 minutes of rage, a man turned a McDonald's restaurant into a slaughterhouse. He killed 21 people, wounded another 20 before police gunned him down. It's believed to be the worst single-day massacre by a gunman in U.S. history. And today, authorities are attempting to make sense of yesterday's senseless carnage, to explain the inexplicable. Our coverage begins with David Dow.
It was an unbelievable scenario. A man walked into the crowded McDonald's restaurant carrying an automatic rifle, shotgun, and pistol. A radio over his shoulder blaring loud music.
His first words were, "Everybody get down on the floor or I'll kill somebody." And he, at that time, they all complied and did what they were told.
He killed him anyway.
And he killed him anyway.
Methodically, the gunman fired first one weapon, then another, mowing down men, women, and children inside and outside the restaurant. Few escaped the onslaught.
Sí, ya, o sea, ya cuando todo terminó, entonces
Clutching her 2-year-old son, Griselda de Orendain dived under a table and crawled out a door to rescue crews. Finally, nearly 90 minutes after the shooting began, a police marksman killed the gunman with a single shot. He was identified as 41-year-old James Huberty. Around him, a massacre. In a back room, police found 4 survivors.
The SWAT team came downstairs, but we didn't know if it was them or it was probably the guy. We didn't want to open the door, but at the end, we just opened it, and it was the SWAT team, and we took us out.
So then they shot me, and then I stayed, and I hid down in this corner. And I guess he shot the girls, and he went back up to the front, I guess, to load his guns or something. And that's when I ran to the back.
Police were baffled by the carnage, the random nature of the victims. All ages, all races. Among them, 11-year-old Omar Hernandez, gunned down beneath his bicycle.
I used to take care of him. He used to take care of me. So we were good buddies.
Dead also, 11-year-old David Flores. Today, his family struggled to understand.
His brother, my best friend.
So unbelievable, so deadly. David Dow, CBS News, San Ysidro, California.
With the sadness, there is an overwhelming sense of disbelief, too, among the area residents, shocked that their neighborhood hangout could become the scene of such carnage. This morning, little boys tried to shoot the bad man one more time. Mothers prayed for the dead and those who somehow survived. And a steady stream of the curious drove by the restaurant and up the hill by the apartment complex where suspect James Huberty and his family had lived for the past 2 months. James Huberty, who trained to be a security guard under a federal program in San Diego, described by his teacher as a nondescript student, but an excellent shooter, described by the few who knew him as unfriendly.
He always had a frown on his face. He was always looked like he was mad at everybody sometimes, you know. I never seen the man smile.
Neighbor Joe Palacio said Huberty was mad at the world, especially mad at Hispanics, suspected them of trying to break into his van.
I think he was mad at him. I don't know if he didn't like him. But he felt that the Hispanics were causing him trouble or getting on his case?
Yes, I think so. I think that's what it was.
Before yesterday's shooting spree, one of Huberty's 2 daughters told a neighbor there was trouble at home.
No, my dad's very angry. My mom and dad have had an argument.
I wish this had never happened. If he would have been in his right mind, hadn't been hearing voices, he would have never done this. Never. And I know definitely he would have never killed a child.
Huberty had lived in this border neighborhood for just 7 months. Before yesterday, he was just one more Anglo face in a largely Hispanic area. And McDonald's was something of a social center for families from both sides of the border, San Ysidro and Tijuana, because it had the only decent playground for miles around.
Because that's the only playground in the area, and that's where the kids go to play. Practically all these children go there to play, and they're constantly back and forth.
9-year-old Amato Olson came by today looking for his friend Jerry.
No, I just wanted to know if he got shot or anything.
John Cordova already knows about his friends, 2 boys on bicycles who were shot to death. He came back to look with his mother.
I'm sure the impact hasn't really hit the kids until they return to school or until they don't have their friends there to play with anymore.
What the survivors and neighbors are seeking tonight is an answer to the question of what made James Huberty go down the hill from his home and start killing. Jerry Bowen, CBS News, San Ysidro.
Like millions of other Americans, James Huberty moved to the West Coast in search of a better life. That was earlier this year. Frank Courier looks at the industrial town Huberty came from, where authorities seek clues in what seems to be a matter of motiveless malignity.
James Oliver Huberty lived and worked, but had few friends in Massillon, a town of 32,000 in the hills of central Ohio. Police say he didn't fit in.
They arrested him in 1980, October of 1980, for disorderly conduct charge, where he had a confrontation with some customers at a gas station.
People, he thought, were out to get him.
It was more or less, leave me alone. My neighbors are doing this to me. He complained a lot about his neighbors.
Huberty reacted bitterly to the loss of his job when this factory shut down. He's remembered by co-workers as conscientious but obsessed with automatic weapons, which he is said to have stockpiled in the house where he used to live.
I didn't like to be around him at all. And he just had this look in his eyes. When you looked at him, you'd think he was half crazy,
From this neighborhood where Huberty and his family lived nearly 10 years, there emerges the profile of a man who loved his guns, his karate, and most of all, his privacy. Diana Moeller remembers best his German shepherds.
I've heard about the guns. He shot one of his own dogs and killed it.
But the mass murder is puzzling to Edna Eisenbreil.
I know Jim had a temper, but I never thought he would go that far. I really was shocked.
Huberty left town out of work, out of step, neighbors say, with the world, never bothering to say goodbye. Frank Courier, CBS News, Massillon, Ohio.
Doctors warn, never insert cotton swabs into the ear canal to remove wax. Yet that's where excess wax can harden to create pressure. Now, Murine offers the only complete medically approved way for you to remove wax. Only Murine has drops to safely loosen hardened wax when used as directed, plus an ear washer to gently flush wax away. Remember, there's only one complete way for you to remove wax: the Murine Earwax Removal System.
Just about everything you need for painting is on sale now at Sears Summer National Paint Sale. Save $8 on Sears Easy Living Satin Flat, now at our lowest price of the season. Sears Weather Beater Low Luster Satin, also at our lowest price of the season. And save over $50 on a Craftsman Airless Sprayer, now $77.97. You'll save 20 to 50% on items for all your painting jobs at Sears Summer National Paint Sale.
There's more for your life.
It's the final climatic night of the Democratic National Convention, the night the scenario calls for Democrats to close ranks for the fight ahead against Ronald Reagan. But for tonight, Walter Mondale and Geraldine Ferraro's night to accept the nomination. For Walter Mondale and his supporters, a wish come true. For Geraldine Ferraro and her supporters, the dream come to pass. Susan Spencer has more on the chance and the challenge they face here tonight to address the nation in ways that will unify and electrify.
It is arguably the most important performance of Walter Mondale's political career. What could go wrong? Tonight, a heart balloon would be wrestled to the ground because this speech, which Mondale has worked on now for 6 weeks, will set the tone for the entire fall campaign. Today, he checked out the podium and teleprompter and pronounced himself ready.
Yeah, all set. We're all set.
A 10-minute film will complement the speech, reinforcing what Mondale has been through, his view of the future, his values and ideals.
Every child ought to have a chance to fulfill his or her dreams. I want to make our nation and our world safer.
The film ends with patriotic scenes worthy of Ronald Reagan's commercials. All these festivities will be preceded by Ms. Ferraro's acceptance speech, which will emphasize many of the same good old American value themes as Mondale's. She rehearsed yesterday. One-time competitor, Senator Edward Kennedy, will introduce Mondale tonight. Mondale is not known for fiery oratory, and this convention already has been brought to its feet by Mario Cuomo, moved to tears by Jesse Jackson. Those are tough acts to follow. Can Mondale do it?
He doesn't have to give the sermon. They've already had the sermon. What he needs to give is the message, the benediction to go home and think about and work for.
I know that he's a different kind of orator, and so it may be a little different, but we will accept that.
How he says it will be fine. It's what he says that we're going to be listening for.
Support was coming today, too, from old opponents. Senator Hart met privately with Mondale for about an hour.
Well, I'm going to campaign. I'm going to speak. I'm going to knock on doors, do anything I can.
But both Senator Hart and Reverend Jackson skipped a Democratic unity lunch with Ferraro and Mondale. Jackson said later he hopes minorities will be deeply involved in the Mondale campaign, but clearly he is still bargaining over his own role.
I can do a job for the campaign without having a job in the campaign.
It was once thought that Mondale and Ferraro might try to capitalize on the supposed unity and momentum from this convention and immediately begin campaigning. But Mondale, at least, will take a short vacation. He has, after all, been working for this nomination for 3 long years. Susan Spencer, CBS News, on the convention floor.
While the Democrats can hardly wait to try to come out of this convention a party united, Ronald Reagan and the Republicans say they can barely wait to come out fighting. White House correspondent Bill Plant has the latest on their everything's coming up Rose Garden strategy.
You say you haven't seen much of Ronald Reagan this week? Well, during the day, he's been being presidential, attending a conference of Caribbean leaders today, for example. But at night, say his aides, he's been watching the Democrats on television and waiting his turn. The people running his re-election campaign say they're delighted with what the Democrats have done. Things started looking up, they think, when Mondale chose Geraldine Ferraro. They think that she, too, is liberal, and they believe that makes the ticket more liberal than most of the voters.
I think that the convention this week, there's a lot of rhetoric about what's wrong with America, and I think that the American public today probably doesn't agree with that.
Reagan aides think Jesse Jackson's impassioned speech pushed Mondale and Ferraro further to the left, and that Mondale's choice of Jimmy Carter's old pal Burt Lance from Georgia to head his campaign will be of little help in the South. More good news, in their view, for Mr. Reagan.
The West is traditional Republican country, and certainly this president's been very strong there. I would say the South today is almost as strong, and I think it's only going to get stronger the more we campaign down there.
So next week, Mr. Reagan will campaign in Texas to advertise that he has a Texan on the ticket, in Georgia, the only Deep South state he didn't carry last time, and in New Jersey to court the blue-collar ethnic vote in Ferraro's backyard. With the advantage they have now, say the Reagan strategists, the battle will ultimately be fought in 4 industrial states: New Jersey, Ohio, Michigan, and Illinois. But when all is said and done, the Reagan team thinks the election will turn on personality. They see it as a strong Reagan versus a weak Mondale.
I think there's no question he already is overshadowed not only by his running mate, but by Governor Cuomo, Jesse Jackson, and probably Gary Hart. I think he's got to hit a hell of a speech tonight to get back in the forefront of his own party.
Reagan strategists considered using negative TV commercials against Mondale right after the convention, but they've dropped the idea as overkill at this point. They think things are going just fine. For his part, the president will keep on emphasizing the positive, because he and his advisors think that that is what the public wants to hear. Bill Plant, CBS News, the White House.
Moments before Senator Gary Hart left his hotel for a meeting with Walter Mondale, the Secret Service stopped, wrestled, and arrested a young man outside on the street. He was carrying a fully loaded .22 caliber pistol, according to police. They say they spotted the gun in a small knapsack the suspect was carrying. They identified the man as Robert Carlson of Northern California. No indication, they say, that Carlson was reaching for the gun. It was at the very same entrance to the very same hotel that Sarah Jane Moore shot at President Ford in 1975.
When you clean your toilet bowl, do you use one of these cleaners? You know, none of them disinfect, not one. But here's one that does. Vanish, powerful crystal or super thick liquid. They don't just clean, they disinfect. They give you the germ-killing power you want. See these concentrated bowl germs? Vanish kills them, disinfects, crystal and liquid vanish. The difference is disinfecting.
Susan's dog is alive today because his Heart's Flea and Tick Collar helped save his life last night. The Heart's 2-in-1 Plus Nighttime Safety Reflecting Collar, the first flea and tick killing collar that reflects oncoming car headlights to help protect your pet at night. And that same Heart's collar protects against fleas and ticks every day, round the clock for 5 months. Get your dog or cat the Heart's 2-in-1 Plus Nighttime Safety Reflecting Collar, an important part of Heart's care. Everything good for your pet.
Lawmen say there's some 300 members of the pagan motorcycle gang with membership stretching from the Carolinas to New York. And today, officials indicted pagan National President Paul Perry in New York and 21 others around the East Coast. They are all charged with the manufacture and distribution of PCP and methamphetamine, or speed. The arrests capped a 2-year investigation by federal, state, and local authorities. In the Big Sky country of Montana today, authorities use 20th century technology to track fugitives relying on the ageless ways of the mountain. As Bob McNamara reports, it is not certain technology will prevail in this manhunt already marked by violent death.
Before dawn today, a police SWAT team boarded helicopters. The tactical plan to search possible wilderness hideouts where 2 so-called mountain men might be holed up after allegedly kidnapping, wounding, and releasing a woman athlete and killing her would-be rescuer 5 days ago. The hunted pair, 53-year-old Don Nichols and Nichols' 19-year-old son Dan, are wanted for abducting 23-year-old Carrie Swenson of Bozeman as she jogged along a wilderness road near a resort last weekend. Authorities say the 2 mountain men wanted her to be a mountain woman to join their wilderness lifestyle and was taken captive when she refused.
She was told that all they wanted her to do is to try it for 2 or 3 days. They wanted to make a mountain woman out of her within 2 or 3 days.
Lawmen barred reporters and cameras from following today's manhunt, which by late this afternoon was unsuccessful.
They've had no results. Everything's been negative.
Though authorities have often portrayed Nichols and his son as dangerous and violent, those who know the pair say they're not monsters, not cold-blooded killers, and that their life in the timber may be antisocial, but that it's not a political protest.
His mind is not a criminal mind, that's for sure.
For more than 40 years, Fred Hokanson has known fugitive Don Nichols to be nothing more than a man more comfortable in the wild than anywhere else.
You're off by yourself, and you really can appreciate life, he says, and the beauty of the mountains and everything.
Though some deputies believe the Nichols pair to be so wilderness-wise they could have escaped the search area days ago, the sheriff says the search will go on until the fugitives are caught or until he's certain they're not here. Bob McNamara, CBS News, Big Sky, Montana.
Come on in, take a seat. We're gonna tell you what the big boys eat. Name is Wheaties, kick a wheat. Now you know what the big boys eat. Hello, milk, come on in. Jump in, berry, have a swim. Wheaties, Wheaties, not too sweet. Now go tell your mama what the big boys eat.
Part of your good breakfast.
In Los Angeles this summer, thousands will compete in the toughest event of them all, trying to cash an out-of-state check. But some will do it in record time, those whose hometown bank is First Interstate Bank. First Interstate lets you cash checks in over 1,000 offices across the West, including over 200 in Southern California. So when others are getting the runaround, First Interstate gives you the gold. First Interstate Bank, an official sponsor of the 1984 Olympics.
The so-called Union of the Left in France came to an end today after only 3 years. The socialist government that resigned Tuesday included 4 communists, but in the government formed today by new socialist Prime Minister Fabius, the communists were shut out. The communists said they refused to participate to protest industrial modernization policies that are costing thousands of jobs. In Washington, U.S. officials who had objected to the communist cabinet presence are said to be privately welcoming its demise. President Reagan today ended his tempered tone toward Nicaragua and used the occasion of the 5th anniversary of Sandinista rule to lash out at that government. 4 months before scheduled elections, Mr. Reagan said they would be a Soviet-style sham. And the president told a meeting of Caribbean officials that Soviet and Cuban actions in the region are, quote, undermining our liberty and independence.
Nowhere is this threat more pressing than in Nicaragua, a country which today marks the 5th year of Sandinista dictatorship. The Sandinista revolution, like Castro's revolution, is a revolution betrayed.
That, of course, was not the official opinion in Managua today as the Sandinistas observed their half-decade in power. For them, it was a day of celebration and condemnation. Richard Schlesinger is there.
This is what the Sandinista junta wanted today, a well-orchestrated show of support. Junta leader Daniel Ortega kept up his strong attacks on the United States, but sounded conciliatory toward internal critics. Ortega admits it's been a tough 5 years for Nicaragua.
We've had educational and economic progress, even though we're living under a very difficult situation.
The Sandinistas are given credit for building schools and reducing illiteracy by about 35%. The government does not get such good grades for its other projects. Chronic economic problems have caused persistent food shortages. Basics like meat and milk are often unavailable despite an unpopular rationing program. The government insists it has been forced to send laborers who would work on farms into combat against American-sponsored rebels fighting on the northern and southern borders. To make matters worse, says the government, the rebels are also attacking farms. But the editor of Nicaragua's only opposition newspaper says American aggression hasn't caused economic stagnation here. The government's policies have. Managua's Archbishop Miguel Obando y Bravo, the spiritual leader of this overwhelmingly Catholic country, calls the Sandinistas totalitarian. He says the government is trying to destroy the church. The government says the church is meddling in politics.
Yes, the church is the true opposition against injustice and sin.
While the military continues growing, the government says it needs more soldiers. It passed an unpopular draft law last year, and that has created a problem Americans should be very familiar with: draft dodgers, some of whom say they would rather flee the country than fight in the Sandinista army. Richard Schlesinger, CBS News, Managua.
Kiko man, flip an omelet in the pan, add a touch of Kiko man, make a salad better than, add a touch of Kiko man. Difference is intriguing, the taste is unbelieving.
The Kiko Man touch makes so many dishes taste better. The naturally brewed soy sauce, Kiko Man.
Make it special, make it grand, add a touch of Kiko man.
Selling today, it's tough. Just one sales call can cost $200. So before your people go out, make sure it's a hot lead. AT&T can help. Our people can show your people how to use AT&T Watts and AT&T 800 service. So chances are, when they make a call, they'll make a sale.
Been expecting it.
The people of AT&T Communications. We're thinking about your business in ways you never thought of.
Down through the ages, mankind has had to endure many a rough road on the way to the Olympic Games and overcome many a hurdle, not the least of which was athlete's foot. Today, Mycotin makes that road easier because Mycotin cures athlete's foot. It's the only athlete's foot medicine you can buy with Myconazole, a patented ingredient recommended by specialists to cure athlete's foot. Mycotin, the end of the road for athlete's foot.
When Geraldine Ferraro steps to the podium tonight to hear the cheers and applause, she does so, of course, as a Democrat, as a woman, as history. But as Bob Simon reports, she also does so as a symbol of another kind of coming of age in America.
The next Vice President of the United States, Representative Geraldine A. Ferraro.
She is a thoroughly modern woman, a feminist, the wife of a wealthy real estate developer, and the daughter of an Italian immigrant.
Governor Mario M. Cuomo.
He is the man many Democrats already speak of as their presidential candidate next time around. And he's the son of Italian immigrants. Lost in all the hoopla about Ferraro the woman is Ferraro the Italian-American. A new ethnic group has arrived center stage at last.
It is so marvelous to be here with all my friends.
They seem so comfortable here, you'd think they'd been here all along. They have not. In fact, you have to go back 40 years to find the last Italian-American politician who captured the national imagination, Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia. That's him taking on the mob with a sledgehammer.
Let this be noticed to the gangsters that they'll be treated just as rough as we're treating their implements here.
New Yorkers loved him so much they named an airport after him, but he never made it out of New York. There were pathways out of the old neighborhood, but if your name ended in a vowel, politics wasn't one of them. What was? The family business. A sausage factory in San Francisco's Little Italy, a pasta kitchen in San Francisco today, a grocery store in the Italian section of Queens, New York.
I watched a small man with thick calluses on both his hands work 15 and 16 hours a day. I saw him once literally bleed from the bottoms of his feet. A man who came here uneducated, alone, unable to speak the language, who taught me all I needed to know about faith and hard work by the simple eloquence of his example.
The memories are fresh. Hard work and sacrifice, calluses and bloody souls. But it is a memory. Italian Americans as a group are far more prosperous than the national average and have been drifting toward the Republican Party.
I don't think that your average Italian voter relates to Betty Friedan or Gloria Steinem or Bella Abzug. And to the extent that Ferraro looks like she comes out of that side of the women's movement, I think that can be a minus in the Italian community.
Part of the enormous gamble the Democrats are making here tonight is that what Geraldine Ferraro learned from her Italian ancestors made her a special kind of woman. Neither a militant feminist nor a soft liberal, but someone who has kept old values in the new world. Stand on your own, succeed, and make your children proud. Bob Simon, CBS News, San Francisco.
And that's the CBS Evening News for this Thursday. CBS News will have full live coverage of the night a woman is nominated, beginning at 5:30 Western Time. So stay with us for that, won't you? Dan Rather, thanks for joining us.
Fresh and clean as a whistle. That's Irish Spring. Fresh and clean as a whistle.
Irish Spring's green and white stripes have two truly effective deodorants. Two deodorants.
And a fine, fresh scent. So you're fresh and
clean as a whistle.
That's Irish Spring deodorant soap. Gets you fresh and clean as a whistle.
Just about everything you need for painting is on sale now at Sears Summer National Paint Sale. Save $8 on Sears Easy Living Satin Flat, now at our lowest price of the season. Sears Weather Beater Low Luster Satin, also at our lowest price of the season. And save over $50 on a Craftsman Airless Sprayer, now $77.97. You'll save 20 to 50% on items for all your painting jobs at Sears Summer National Paint Sale.
There's more for your life at Sears. Thanks to the K, you can't pinch an inch. Thanks to the K, you can't pinch an inch on me.
With the help of the 220-calorie Kellogg's Special K breakfast and those big, crispy, low-sugar, high-protein flakes, I can't think of a tastier or better way to start my day.
Thanks to the K, you can't pinch an inch on me.
I'm Bill Curtis. Tomorrow, a close look at the Democrats' choice, plus theater in the streets. Join us live from San Francisco on the CBS Morning News.
This is CBS.